Breaking news coming in of Air India flights to Europe will now be avoiding the airspace where, as far as Iran is concerned. Now the Air India flights to West Europe may take more than 2 hours of extra flying time. So we have my colleague Vishnu joining us to get us more on this. Vishnu, this announcement coming about just on the heels of the United States saying that the attack by Iran on Israel could happen sooner than later.
So this isn't an announcement per se by Air India. This is source-based information that we've been able to compile also on the basis of looking very carefully at what Flight Radar 24, which is a very popular website, has been indicating for the last several hours. And our sources now indicating to us that flights of westbound or on Air India to Europe will now be avoiding, Iranian airspace. Usually they fly north through Iran, they swing north, and then they enter Turkish airspace before entering Europe per se. But at this stage, what they'll be doing, and we've actually got that route of a flight this morning to London Heathrow, is that they're flying through Tajik and Uzbek airspace and then proceeding west. Now, as a result of this, it's going to take up to 2 hours more for flights to Western Europe. Now, that obviously depends on factors such as headwinds, air traffic congestion, weather, etc., etc. But by and large, flights to Western Europe from, let us say, Delhi would take up to 2 hours more. At this stage, there is no imminent impact on airfares, which is expected. But if this is to continue for a longer period of time, it is quite possible that airfares might be impacted. Why? Because the airlines, Air India in this case, is already having to uplift more fuel onto their aircraft. Fuel translates into money. That ultimately goes to the consumer. But that's not happening immediately. As far as flights further west to the east coast of the United States is concerned, Air India flights do operate across Russian airspace as well before they swing west across the North Pole and then down south. Whether or not those flights are being impacted as well as a result of this, we don't know. But that's something that clearly needs to be seen as well. But this is breaking news now. Flights from India to West Europe on Air India, and I have reached out to Vistara to see if it's the case in Vistara as well, will be taking up to 2 hours longer as India's flag carrier seeks to avoid Iranian airspace at a time of great tension between Israel and Iran, with the possibility of strikes being conducted, retaliatory strikes by Iran after the attack on the Iranian consulate on the 1st of April, allegedly by Israel.
Right. So if it's going to take 2 more hours as far as flying time is concerned, this is definitely going to disrupt the flight schedules as well. So a domino effect is what we can expect.
No, there'll be no domino effect. It will not affect flight schedules either. Flights will take off at their original planned time. And if there are any slight or small adjustments of time which will take place, that may happen. But this is not going to have some sort of cascading impact. That is unlikely.
Right. So the number of flights that will take off and the number of flights would perhaps be the same, like Vishnu, you are pointing out.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So of course,
they'll just take longer in the air, Divya.
Right, but we're hitting the summer season and a time that people usually take a break, especially towards the western part of Europe. So this is definitely going to impact some of the flyers.
Well, impact in the sense that for the moment, there's not going to be any increase in airfares. But later on, what we do expect is, passengers will have to accept the fact that flights are going to take longer, up to 2 hours longer to Western Europe. And that's pretty much it at this stage. Obviously, if there is a conflict, if there is, God forbid, a war, and it does stretch out for a longer period of time, then we could likely see an impact on airfares as well. But as I mentioned, that's not happened. But yes, the news, and let's stick to the news for the day, is that Air India flights are now avoiding Iranian airspace. They are flying up to 2 hours longer into Western Europe. Therefore the flights are longer. It is some sort of a passenger inconvenience, but flight schedules have not been impacted. In other words, the number of flights continue. If there's an adjustment, in terms of the schedule of flights, that may take place, but it's not going to result in a cascading impact, at least not yet.